Hi, everyone. Let me tell you about this short story I read a while back. It was written by one of my favorite science fiction author called Isaac Asimov, and the title of the story is called Profession. It was written in 1957. In this story, the protagonist is George Platon, who lives in a future society where, on their 18th birthday, most people undergo something called Education Day, a process where knowledge for their career is directly uploaded to their brains through machines. And before this, they have to take the aptitude test to determine which profession that they're best suited for. Now, George eagerly awaits his turn, like everybody else. But instead of being assigned a profession, he's diagnosed as someone who can't be educated by machine and is sent to a house for the feeble minded. Can you imagine how devastated he must be? How devastated I would be if I was in his position. So he thinks that his life is over. However, the twist at the end reveals that George and the others like him aren't failures. They're actually the most valuable members of society. And while the machine educated people can only work within the confines of their programming, George and others like him have the ability to original think with creativity and have original thoughts. So they're being trained to become the innovators, the researchers, the creative thinkers who will advance knowledge and create educational tapes for everyone else. Now, this is one of his stories, and I've been a big fan of his Foundation and his robot series. But this one stuck with me for many, many years. And it explores the themes about the value of independent thinking versus program knowledge and how society might misinterpret who is truly gifted based on standardized system. Now, that's the context of the things that have been going through my head at the moment. And I've had quite a lot of conversations recently. And as I'm telling you, it might seem very disparate with different themes, but they all have a thread, and I'm trying to organize them in a way that makes sense for me. So I've been on podcasts recently talking about AI centered things and topics like, are people ready? Are organizations ready? What does it mean? Etc. As well as discussions at home with my teenagers on this particular topic of AI. Obviously, it is quite widespread. Conversations with Salesforce partners about their graduate hires whose first job is in a remote working world, and how they found that these new generation of knowledge workers don't seem to have or understand the basics of communication, such as how to ask for help or how to behave in a digital social context. And also conversations about organizations demanding that their workforce return um, to the office. So many different threads here, and I was trying to collate all of them, and I knew that there was key themes that were running through. So I posed myself a few questions to try and clarify in my head. Number one, should work from home be abolished, especially after COVID, when all organizations said we are going to be remote friendly forever, 100%, and you see an about turn? And why did that come about? So, my opinion is that the new people who've come into roles, into jobs, without having the opportunity to shadow, to learn from experienced people, to be in the same room in proximity, to look over their shoulders and tap them and say, hey, how did you get to that answer? Why did you do this instead of that? And learn by watching, because that's no longer the norm. You have all these new people coming out straight into a computer and not having human interactions and not knowing what to do and not knowing what they don't know. So we are doing them a disservice by asking them to go straight into remote workforce, even though as a global context, it is a good thing because organizations now can have wider reach of talent pool that they can recruit from. But what is it doing for our, like I said, our new generation of leaders and knowledge workers and professional consultants in the workspace? I don't think it is as good for them as it is for those who, like for me, for example, I'm able to do lots of things with my family, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be able to do all of that and reach my customers and my colleagues as well. So that's one part of thing. Second question: how should organizations view AI? Should they embrace it? This was a conversation I was having on a podcast with one of the ISV founders. Um, my thoughts are, just with any transformation, I think organizations need to be self aware and do very strong business case justification. Have a look at use cases, look at capability, and all the other elements of, is this the right thing for us to do because it will help us in the long term, or is it something that we want to do because it's cute and sexy and we see everyone jumping on board the bandwagon. I think for me, in my discussion with myself, there are two parts. One is, do we go to agent force? Sorry, do we embrace and implement agent force and embrace the AI revolution? Or maybe can we do little steps by using AI assisted tools for different parts of our processes? So it just requires internal due diligence and business case thinking to decide whether an organization is AI ready or not. My third question, and this is probably a pretty controversial one, which I've started being a little bit more vocal about, is when I see tech leaders say things like, we're not going to hire people anymore, we are not going to increase our solution engineers, we are actually going to hire more salespeople to sell more agent force um, implementations, and we're moving from a human focused value system to one that doesn't seem to be that way, especially since Salesforce has disbanded the well architected team. The architects who have formed this very crucial part of, I would say, the ecosystem. I think it's one of the best things that's come out because their work and their advocacy for creating solid, robust, resilient, well structured, well architected system is our vaccine against bad implementations. And the worst thing now is that a lot of users can't tell the difference between bad implementation and bad platform, bad software. And all the principles within a well architected framework helps everyone to know if something is being built properly. Now, I have been pushing for actually a certification for well architected framework because when I'm hiring someone, I don't care that they've got 15, 20, however many certification. I don't care that they know how to do something. I care that they know how to do it right. And that's the thing that is being deprioritized in the conversations and the focus of so many of the discussions that's being had nowadays. So I am feeling very strongly about that, about how organizations seem to be moving away, moving towards more automation, more AI, etc. But then I take a pause. Obviously, let's park the well architected thing for a moment and just think about the push towards automation and AI. So I ask myself, how is this different from when the Industrial Revolution came about and the sewing machine was invented, and how the seamstress and the people who sewed by hand felt that their livelihoods were being threatened. And at the time, also the same message was going out in that, oh, let's automate all the mundane boring stuff so that you can focus on the higher value thing, so that you can work on strategy. I think that that is still true from a macro global level. The faster we can automate the boring stuff, the better we can spend our time looking at important things. Now, what does that mean for the younger generation who are brought up to have short attention span? Thank you, social media and internet. Addicted to instant gratification. Thank you, YouTube, Amazon, and other instant delivery services. By the way, I'm a big hypocrite because I'm also in this group of people who find instant gratification appealing. This is human nature, but we're seeing it at a level and at a scale that we've not seen before. So these young people will inherit a world where we're full of what I call even more complex problems, which are wicked problems that don't have a single solution, don't have a few very clear factors that if you do this you will solve homelessness, if you do this climate change will be reversed. No, there are many multiple factors, and it is so difficult to untangle this knot, that I believe that it requires collaboration of deep critical thinkers, people who have very strong domain knowledge, to ask questions, the right questions, to gain insight, who will know what they don't know, and who will iterate the problem solving technique to get closer to the answer. Are they, are we helping the new generation get there or not? So that's the crux of my concern. What are we telling the new generation of leaders? Are we telling them to embrace AI? It will solve all your problems quicker. You should just replace people with automation. I think what we'll get is that the younger generation will get AI tutors to get them up to a certain level. And I think that that's a really great use case for AI, by the way, which is a very patient tutor who will help you learn things so that you can understand things and will not get upset with you even though you've asked it more time. So I think that that's a really great use case. However, that will not teach them the things that a lot of old people like us had to learn the hard way. You don't see the scars and the singed eyebrows, but we learn lessons, and there wasn't very many shortcuts, which means that we know why something won't work, why if we see a problem these might be the um, reasons why. What I think a lot of people, especially the younger people, how they will use AI would be to give me the answer to that, give me the answer to this particular question, and not ask further, more deeper questions, because it's so easy to just say, can you write me a code that does X, take it all, and try and commit, compile, commit, deploy. And then when you have a problem, you don't know why, you just ask AI. And sometimes it's just not the right or optimal way of doing things because they are not learning. They're just asking for answers. So what I'm worried about is that there will be this gap, and when the older people die out, or the new younger generation won't be able to have the thinking skills to help them make the world a better place. So just harking back to the story I was talking about earlier, Profession, the one that was written by Isaac Asimov, is that if there's no the band of people like George, the house of the feeble-minded people, when if they are not there, who will create the tapes for other people to learn and to, you know, to have a career? So I see this gap, and the analogy is the gap is those pre-COVID workers and the post-COVID workers. And I do a lot of discovery training. We've got the pre-COVID discovery where we are in person. We do a lot of things in the same room, and how rich and energizing those sessions were compared to post-COVID discovery, where you are online and you get a job done, but it's not great. I can see the difference. The difference is between uh, a dish that is very, very well made and cooked and has all sorts of flavor, and a ham sandwich. There's a difference. Both will curb your hunger, but one's richer than the other. And I am worried that we are moving towards a world where the ham sandwich is the acceptable way of doing things. Maybe is the bar, and with all the wicked problems coming already upon us, that the sandwich recipe isn't really going to cut it. So, grappling with all of this, I turn to Claude.ai, my LLM of choice, to have a discourse so that I can clarify my thinking. Because as you've just heard, all the questions that I've posed and my thinking around it, it's a bit jumbled. So, I had some back and forth to try and get to the crux of the matter. And it's really, really helpful. And what I've come to understand is AI is really like a tool, just like a calculator. It's not inherently problematic at all, but it is how we use it. An issue emerges when we substitute them for the difficult process of developing judgment. And I think that's a crux of what all these things that I'm talking about. We are not helping people develop judgment. We are not helping the younger generation develop judgment because of AI, because they're going straight to remote. We are not helping them develop judgment because we see all the tech leaders say, we are not going to hire coders anymore. We are just going to hire um, people to sell robots or agents. Um, so there's this gap there. So, for example, a calculator user who understands mathematical principles, they're the one in control, and they don't become independent. At the same time, AI users with a deep domain expertise can leverage these tools to enhance capabilities, and those without foundational knowledge, they risk being just operators of systems that they don't understand. This is my worry for the world that my children and the younger generation is going to inherit. So, with all of this, I have a few call to action. Again inspired by the conversation I was having with Luca yesterday on AI conversations. That podcast is going to be coming out. One, so this is very macro. This is if I had a magic wand, what would I wish for? I don't think I can affect these sort of changes, but I feel that I need to voice it out and to have more discussions around them. So the first one would be intentional integration between businesses and educational institutions to design processes that use AI as an enhancement to human judgment and not a replacement. So I've been reading about how universities are using AI and how some are just avoiding it completely. I think avoiding it is not the right answer as well. So this particular scenario I heard was the lecturer would give an assignment to everybody, and the suggestion was to use AI to answer it. And the next day, when it was submitted, she would get them to swap papers and to get AI to ask deeper questions about whether the answer that was provided is correct or not, and identify flaws and have further kind of discourse about how accurate AI is in answering those questions. So I like that example because it shows how we are integrating the critical thinking and judgment developing process into our education system. So this leads to metacognitive focus, which is shifting education from fact memorization. So my twin boys are doing GCSEs, and it just brings back a flood of memory, PTSD and memory, and all things from my past about how we had to memorize and regurgitate facts. It's not changed very much, which makes me sad. I think a whole education overhaul needs to happen, and I don't know if that's realistic, but it needs to happen, and to shift it from memorizing to a deeper understanding of how we know what we know and why things work and why they don't work. Third is it is deliberate practice, of creating structured environments where younger professionals must develop foundational skills before using AI to augment them. I think that is so important. That's missing, and I don't know how to make that a reality. And I would welcome the discourse and the discussions from everyone to see if we can come up with some great ideas or not. In number four, showcasing mastery. Um, Stories of those samurai makers apprentice. If you I There's this series on Netflix called The Blue-Eyed Samurai, and you can watch and see how a samurai sword maker has an apprentice who observe very carefully from the master, and it's years before they develop that craft, making sushi, writing, anything. Okay, maybe not so much writing, but the olden days, how someone become a master of their craft. That's rapidly being lost now. And the acceleration towards mediocrity is what I'm seeing here. And I think that unless we can help younger generation understand what mastery actually means and how to master craft, it doesn't matter what it is. It could be animation, it could be art, digital arts. So one of my kids are really into digital art. It could be YouTube, it could be copywriting, it could be anything, using or without using AI. The 10,000 hours of mastering an art is disappearing, or for many things is already lost. So what we need to do, I would love, if I had a magic wand, is to go back to making craft mastery a prized thing to have, to be, to develop, to grow into. So we kind of need to do that, and I would like that everyone be taught how to think critically, to develop the judgment in creating their craft before leveraging AI to make it even better. So I, it's a really long rant right now. It's because it's been in my head a lot. I've been having so many conversations, and I felt that it was time to try and crystallize some key concepts, and rather than just rambling about why I think this is wrong, why I don't like what I'm seeing, why you shouldn't focus on this, etc., to bring it together to a few key concepts and a few call to action that I can wrap my head around, so that the things I say and the things I do, I can focus it around these few things. Because even though the world is really big and sometimes it feels out of our control, there are many things within our control. And that's how I'm feeling right now. By doing this, I can try to help make the world better, so that the younger generations of leaders, when they're entering the workforce, when they are receiving the world that we are giving them, that they have the tools to move forward and make it better. That's what I wanted to talk about today. I would love to hear your thoughts. Um, Actually, I created and I launched a course called the Salesforce Consulting Fundamentals, which targets this very specifically. I've had a lot of conversations with Salesforce partners about the new hires, especially those from university straight into remote roles, and them not having the benefit of in-person onboarding, shadowing opportunities. How do we adapt this to the digital world? So I've created a course specifically for that. I'm getting lots and lots and lots of DMs and messages from consultants all around who are facing the same things. Is this right? Is what I'm doing right? How do I know when I'm wrong? What do I say? I've got a team that is of this makeup. How do I bring value to them when I know nothing? And how do I craft a career for myself? The consulting career is a rewarding one. It has been amazing for me, but I know it's not for many people for many, many reasons. I've been so fortunate to meet the managers I've had, to meet the leaders that have taught me what integrity means and how to be and how to bring forth the best in myself and in my team. And I know that many, many people don't have that opportunity at the moment. So I created this course. It's not very long, it's 2.5 hours, but it's really, really, really packed with lots of things, very short checklists and things to think about. What's your 5-day action plan? What do you need to set yourself up for success? How do you understand what's expected from you? Who's expecting what from you? When you start your new role, who's your project manager? What's your new project about? What should you do? How should you shadow people? How should you ask to shadow someone? And how do you make the most of that opportunity? What communication channels should you use? Should you use Slack or email or pick up the phone? Very few people pick up the phone nowadays. How do you know when to step back and when to keep pushing? So if you're stuck and you don't get an answer in the team chat or in one-on-one instant message, what should you do? No, you shouldn't just stay back and wait for someone to say, hey, what's happening with that user story that I assigned to you? So it's got very, very detailed instructions what to do. Another module I added in there is the how to handle data, especially client data around privacy and security, because that's not being taught at all. The bigger partners will have training on data privacy and security and GDPR and all of that. But I know many small and medium sized partners don't. It is really important that you understand the confidential levels of your client and of the company and how to conduct yourself in a professional way. I also have a very, very detailed 4 pillars of excellence framework around what a great consultant needs to be. I've been in this industry for 30 years, 16 years in the Microsoft consulting space and about 14 years in the Salesforce consulting space. And I kind of know what I'm talking about. I've been one, I've hired many, I've done projects, I've been assigned projects that's been going down. And needing to turn them around. I've seen code that's bad. I've worked with contractors, independent consultants, small, medium, and large partners. I kind of know what I'm talking about. And this is my way of trying to make it easier for the people who are just coming into the industry. Like I said, consulting is amazing. I love it. It's made me who I am and how I've grown. And I want to impart them the things that I've learned so that you don't have to go through the fire that I did, and you can keep your eyebrows. You can see that it's not quite grown back. So anyway, lots of things on my mind. I hope you have found this useful, and I would love to hear a comment below. I would love to have further discussions and conversations with anyone on any of these topics. So there you go. I hope you found it useful. Thanks so much for listening.